How do you negotiate with God?
If I die, I died for something I believed in.
We were always very concerned about mass suicide.
Let's send them out of that house right now.
No.
There was no apparent progress overnight towards ending the cult standoff in Texas.
What time limit do you put on a human life?
How do you negotiate with a fanatical group that believes the apocalypse has come?
This is totally unprecedented.
When a heavily armed cult leader holds up with over 120 of his followers in Waco, Texas. We've brought together FBI agents, profilers, military experts, and cult members to tell the inside story of an ill-fated negotiation that dragged on for more than 50 days.
Quand on voit les tanks, on se dit, qu'est-ce qu'ils font?
Did the cult leader's paranoia and growing instability drive the FBI into a corner?
He is a liar.
You want to just jump on this guy.
Professional negotiators Marwan Mary and Laurent Combalbert will help us find the answers.
Vouloir lui faire perdre son leadership, ça fait courir un risque.
À tout moment, tout peut déraper.
They stare down danger in fear to win people over. Negotiators.
My wife and my kids and myself were getting ready to go to church when the phone rang. I picked, it was my boss who told me that there was an ongoing gun battle taking place in Waco. I asked my wife to throw some clothes together in a bag, and she said, well, how much do you need? I said, honey, this sounds like a bad one. You better put about 3 days worth in.
Byron Sage is a negotiator. He's been working in the FBI's Austin, Texas office for 17 years. Arriving at the station, he learns an ATF raid on a group suspected of stockpiling illegal weapons has gone horribly awry.
It was gunfire going off simultaneously, rapidly, from both directions.
911, what's your emergency?
There are men, 75 men around our building.
Okay, just a moment.
When Byron Sage steps in to negotiate a ceasefire, he finds a surreal situation. The cult members are the ones calling for help.
It was just pandemonium.
I hear gunfire. Oh, shit. Hello?
It was still very intense, a lot of screaming and hollering and shots being fired. There was a young man standing between two radio consoles that had a phone to both ears. And he immediately went like this with both phones, like, here, take this.
Byron Sage hesitates. In any negotiation, the initial contact is crucial. As our negotiation experts, Marwan Mary and Laurent Combalbert, explain.
Les premiers mots, les premiers échanges vont connoter de la qualité de la relation.
Le contact a pour objectif de calmer la situation, pour ramener un peu de raison dans la discussion.
The negotiator doesn't know it yet, but the first words he hears foretell a worst-case scenario. On the other end of the line, members of a cult that was virtually unknown until a few hours earlier. Waco, Texas. a town of 100,000 people between Austin and Dallas, nicknamed the Heart of Texas. 30 miles north, a religious community has thrived hidden away from prying eyes for 70 years. They call themselves the Branch Davidians. They live at the Mount Carmel Center, a giant compound dotted with several buildings. A dorm for men, another for women and children, a cafeteria, a gymnasium, a chapel. There's even a buried school bus that serves as a tornado shelter. The cult members include David Thibodeau, 23 years old at the time.
The people at Mount Carmel were following God's message. It was a very monastic way of living. The water was a pump, okay? So we washed our clothes in buckets. You know, we used an outhouse. It took many hours to prepare a meal for that many people.
En Europe, on arrive avec cette idée qu'il y a une église et puis des sectes. Et qu'en gros, les sectes, ça se surveille parce que c'est un peu des cinglés, on ne sait pas très bien comment ils fonctionnent. Aux États-Unis, c'est pas ça du tout. Aux États-Unis, c'est pas des sectes, c'est des églises. La liberté de croire, comme on le souhaite, de se prendre pour le Messie, de se prendre pour... Elle est totale.
His tongue is the pen of a ready writer. So how's God going to talk to me in the latter days?
It's going to be ready.
And who's going to bring that book? So there'll be no excuses.
In 1992, an Australian TV crew was allowed inside to film the Davidians' daily life. The 100-member flock is led by 23-year-old David Koresh, their spiritual guide.
Do you want to know the 7 seals?
He had some sort of spiritual experience of being taken up into heaven and learned that he had received the Christ Spirit.
Well, we accepted David Koresh as a messenger of God.
A messenger of God with a rather unholy passion for firearms.
Des mécanismes qui permettent de transformer des armes semi-automatiques en armes automatiques ont été envoyés à la secte, et ça, c'est un délit fédéral, c'est interdit.
On February 28, 1993, the ATF, the US Bureau that regulates firearms, obtains a search warrant. Roland Ballesteros is one of 85 highly trained agents brought in for the top-secret operation. Codename Showtime.
The goal of the mission was to arrest David Koresh and to seize all the weapons.
Le but, c'est d'agir très vite, c'est de les saisir à vif. Évidemment, l'effet de surprise est primordial, sinon ça détruit entièrement l'opération.
But word somehow leaks out. David Koresh catches wind of the operation. When ATF agents take position outside the compound, he is ready for them.
I was in the cafeteria, just finishing breakfast, and David came down the stairs and he goes, "They're on their way. Don't anyone do anything stupid. I'm going to talk to them."
He said, I want everybody to go back to their rooms. Just stay calm. He said, I'll go down to the front door. And
I see David Koresh at the front door, and I'm yelling at him at this point in time for him and his people to lay down. He's looking around and he's asking me, what's going on? And again, I yell at him, this is a search warrant, lay down.
next thing he's yelling, hey, wait a minute, there's women and children in here.
And I'll never forget this, he smiled at me. He smiled at me and he closed the door.
And then all hell broke loose.
A gun battle erupts at Mount Carmel. It's utter mayhem, with each side accusing the other of firing first.
I thought, oh my God, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Roland Ballesteros is still at the front door, and he's been hit.
My hand got kicked back and my thumb had been blown. I'm terrified, I've been shot, and other team members telling me to put my head back down because there was a .308, that's a good-sized rifle, that was leaning out of the window trying to shoot me. I really felt I was going to die right there.
This is the emergency situation Byron Sage is brought in to defuse. At 11:30 a.m., he makes contact with David Koresh. And the first words out of the cult leader's mouth are unsettling.
When I got on the phone, I introduced myself and I said, by the way, how do you want me to address you? And David said to me very calmly, Agent Siege, have you ever heard a person die? And I said, yes, I have. He said, then you know how to pronounce my name. And I said, what do you mean by that? He said, my last name is like that last exhalation of breath, a death knell. It's Koresh.
Les mots qu'il utilise, il se montre très calme en plus quand il prononce ces mots. Les mots qu'il utilise sont là pour montrer que c'est lui qui va décider de comment vont se passer les choses.
David Koresh demands the immediate retreat of all ATF agents. Byron Sage has no choice. If he wants to stop the slaughter, he agrees. After 2.5 hours, the longest shootout in US history ends. The death toll is horrific. The ATF has lost 4 agents, 6 Davidians lay dead.
This was a shock. It was a shocking event.
And the hardest part is yet to come. 120 people are hunkered down with the cult leader inside the compound. Are they hostages or willing participants?
We didn't know if it was a true hostage situation. We really did not know what we had.
In accordance with US law, when a federal agent is killed, the FBI immediately takes over the case. 300 FBI agents pour into WACO, including Gary Nussner, a crisis resolution expert who will head the agency's 25-member negotiation team. His first priority, securing the area.
Around any major siege operation, you have 2 lines of security. There's a containment cordon around the actual crisis site, and then there's an outer ring of police officers that keeps the news media and the public from coming in.
Then we setting up sniper positions. The primary function is reporting intelligence back to the command post in the form of an observer.
The negotiations are conducted from a nearby house, 650 feet from Mount Carmel. Working under a constraint laid down by the White House, force is not to be used to resolve the crisis.
Our personal mission is to try to reach a peaceful settlement and to bring all those people out without any further violence.
The authorities' greatest fear is an escalation of violence that could end in disaster.
All of us were concerned about the possibility of mass suicide, kind of like Jim Jones, Jonestown.
15 years before WACO, in Guyana, another cult leader ordered his followers to drink cyanide. Several hundred people lost their lives. To prevent a repeat, the negotiators look for a way to coax out the Davidians. They start by setting their sights on the cult leader.
David Koresh est très influent ici, il est le leader. Donc le rôle du négociateur, c'est d'établir un lien de communication entre lui et le leader pour faire en sorte qu'il puisse induire le changement chez lui.
To do this, the negotiators need insight into Koresh's personality. They bring in Greg McCrary, a behavioral criminology expert. In other words, a profiler. His job, digging through the past of one David Koresh, birth name Vernon Howell.
He had no formal education past the 9th grade. As well, he may have been dyslexic, could have been part of his learning problems.
He was called Mr. Retardo. Kids made fun of him. He was a little slow. Not the kind of guy you would think would end up, being a leader of any kind.
Abandoned by his father at age 2, mistreated by his mother's boyfriends, young Vernon finds religion and uses it to exact revenge. He changes his name and dubs himself God's messenger on earth.
He taught his followers daily that they were specially chosen for a transcendental mission and that he was the sole source of truth.
He taught that the community would be assaulted. It was part of God's plan for them to fight back.
La menace que laisse planer David Koresh, c'est celle de l'Apocalypse, en indiquant que la fin du monde est proche.
But their prophet is hardly a saint. He has been accused of abusing children, both physically and sexually. Given Koresh's dark past, the profiler's conclusions are not very promising.
David Koresh, or Vernon Howell, was a charismatic psychopath who had paranoid tendencies.
But they do suggest a tactic for gaining leverage in the negotiations.
C'est un profil narcissique, avec un ego très très fort, mais c'est un élément qu'on peut utiliser dans la négociation en lui laissant justement penser qu'il va piloter la forme pendant qu'on reste maître du fond.
When you have a narcissistic individual, they need flattery. They can't get enough, and they don't want to be told they're bad.
24 hours after the shootout ends, the negotiations open. Everything is taped.
I don't care who they are. Nobody comes to my home.
His primary anger was at ATF, and my initial strategy was to, in essence, say, well, this is the FBI.
We said, you did the right thing by defending your home. ATF were the bad guys, you were the good guys.
The negotiators' strategy works. David Koresh is receptive to the FBI's message. He lets several children and elderly cult members leave the compound.
He sounded fairly reasonable to me. I felt like he was someone I could work with.
There's a good reason to believe the standoff can be ended quickly. That hope is reconfirmed the next morning with a big breakthrough in the negotiation.
I, David Koresh, agree upon the broadcasting of this tape to come out peacefully with all the people.
David Koresh indicated he wanted to send a message to the world and promised to surrender. Everybody would come out. And we secured a very firm promise from him.
To seal the deal, the negotiators agreed to play Koresh's end-of-the-world message over the radio.
For him, it was vitally important to get his message out. He needed to give the rest of humanity the possibility of converting so that they would be saved.
Le point qui est important ici, c'est de faire en sorte que David Koresh ne perde pas la face.
This win-win strategy is employed regularly by negotiators bargaining with hostage takers. But will it work at WACO? At 1:30 p.m., the message is played over the local radio.
I am really concerned about the lives of all those in this world. You know, without Christ...
You could have heard a pin drop in the negotiation operations center.
It finally comes to a time when judgment must begin.
David Koresh's monologue ends. Now, will he keep his promise?
So we waited.
We kept pressing and say, hey, we're ready. We did what we said, we played the tape. We're waiting for your people to come out.
But no one comes out of the compound. The negotiators do not know it. An important development is unfolding inside. Clive Doyle is one of the cult's longtime members. He is with his 18-year-old daughter, waiting to walk out.
Everybody's getting ready to come out. I went down to the kitchen and made 2 sandwiches for her.
I was glad we were coming out and that this wasn't going to escalate.
At this point, David Koresh makes an announcement. Before they leave, he needs to talk with God.
He said, let's wait a minute. I'm going to pray.
He claims that he was getting direct communications with God, or at least he was being shown visions of what to teach.
At 5:58 p.m., David Koresh's top lieutenant contacts the negotiators and tells them something that changes everything.
Well, at that time, just before we moved him, he had prayer, and he was told to wait. So we're sitting around here ourselves waiting.
His assistant said that God had spoken to Koresh and that told him not to come out.
C'est ce qu'on appelle une décharge de responsabilité. Il n'a pas menti, il a simplement pas pu honorer ce sur quoi il s'était engagé, simplement parce que quelqu'un au-dessus de lui avait dit de faire l'inverse.
This morning, the truth was that he was coming out immediately. But this afternoon, something has changed. Now, God does not change the truth from the morning to the afternoon.
I think he showed his true colors at that point in time. He was a master manipulator. He was very deceitful.
The FBI is stunned. The negotiations ramp up to a whole new level.
He said his present position is he still promises to, but you have to deal with his God.
How do you negotiate with God? That's a problem we were faced with.
So now we know we're in for a long haul.
After 3 days, only 20 people have come out. Over 100 people, including 22 children, are still holed up inside Mount Carmel. And now, the global media spotlight is trained on the compound.
There is no official word as to what is going on inside.
After 9 days of negotiations, federal authorities expressed frustration.
For the past week, the negotiators have been wrestling with an unprecedented media swarm. TV crews from around the globe are camped 1,000 feet from Mount Carmel, airing round-the-clock coverage of the siege.
The whole world was watching. I think everybody back in the day knew what was going on.
Satellite City, c'était la route qui est un chemin de ferme sur lesquels les camions satellites ont commencé à s'agglomérer les uns après les autres.
Laurent Bazin was one of the journalists reporting from WACO, covering the standoff for a major French TV network.
C'était peut-être la première fois qu'on pouvait vivre comme un feuilleton à la télévision, un drame dans sa durée, quasiment 24 heures sur 24.
There was something in that front car, that front seat.
The media want to know, who are these people inside the compound? The negotiators are asking themselves the same question. They use a ruse to get the answer. On March the 9th, they send the Davidians a video camera, ostensibly, so they can tape messages for their families.
We now could put a face with a name. We could gain more insight into the rest of the individuals in there.
The rumor has gone around over the radio and the airwaves that you're being held against your will. Do you have a desire to leave? Would you like to leave?
No.
No.
I'm here because I want to be here.
Do you want to leave here?
No, I don't want to leave here.
30 people tape messages and say the same thing. The negotiators' doubts are erased.
If you were given the opportunity to leave now, would you like to leave?
No.
You sure?
It's not truly a hostage situation if the person or persons inside are there voluntarily.
Quand on analyse ces bandes, on voit que les Davidiens sont sereins, ils sourient même par moments, ils semblent parfaitement maîtriser la situation et heureux de leur sort.
Et ils ont tout ce qu'il faut pour pouvoir tenir. Ils ont stocké beaucoup de nourriture en prévision de l'apocalypse, donc forcément pour eux, c'est pas difficile.
The negotiators, in contrast, have a tough task on their hands.
The only demand they had, essentially, was for us to go away, and that was the one thing we couldn't do. So it's difficult to exert leverage on somebody that doesn't need you or want you there.
The negotiators learn something else from the video. It contains a special message just for them.
David, anything you'd like to say?
First of all, I'd like to thank the negotiators that we've been discussing with on the phone.
This is the negotiators' first face-to-face with the man behind the standoff.
Want to see one of the holes here?
David Koresh was shot during the gun battle with ATF agents, but appears fairly relaxed.
He could be charming and engaging. He could joke a little bit, using a fake voice, pretending he was John Wayne and a tough guy.
Oh, it ain't nothing, tough guy like me. It's just flesh, it heals.
The cult leader loves to talk, perhaps a bit too much. He slips up, boasting that he's fathered numerous babies. He already has 13 children and intends to father even more.
My babies too. The rumor's true. But like I say, you don't know the seal, you don't know why.
David Koresh taught that those children had special roles to play in the judgment. He had a project having 24 children with women of the community of childbearing age.
The women seen in these images are very young. Some are still minors. David Koresh imposed his will on his followers to fulfill his prophecies.
Basically, the people that were married in the group would be as if they were not.
Only Koresh could have sex with the women. Husbands could not have sex with their own wives.
The FBI agents are convinced that someone must have found this situation very hard to bear. They start looking for what negotiation experts call an emerging leader.
Le leader émergent, c'est celui qu'on va identifier comme étant capable de prendre la place du leader qui est établi, ou au moins verbaliser la remise en cause du choix de Koresh de se retrancher et d'attendre.
The negotiators set their sights on Steve Schneider, the cult's second in command. His wife has joined David Koresh's harem. She even has a daughter with him.
My name is Judy Schneider Koresh. This is my daughter, Mina.
He was very devoted to his wife, Judy, with whom he could never have a child.
Your attitude.
He didn't talk about it a lot to me. He would give little glimpses of his struggle. So absolutely, that must have been hard.
If we could drive a wedge between Steve Schneider and the man that had impregnated his wife, perhaps Steve could bring several of those people out.
On March the 9th, the negotiators make contact with Steve Schneider. Can they undermine his devotion to David Koresh?
We'd use the Bible sort of strategically and carefully. We would say, we are not biblical scholars, but there's something in the Bible about adultery that isn't that wrong?
There's absolute silence on the other end. You genuinely did planting that seed that you're backing the wrong person here.
He would hang up and Koresh would get him and flip him right back. You know, that don't listen, they're the devil, they speak with forked tongue.
In the end of the day, he was particularly devoted to David Koresh.
The negotiators are disappointed, but they don't give up. They know the emerging leader tactic takes time and patience.
En négociation, c'est ce qu'on appelle la maturation lente. Le négociateur ne peut pas dire de façon très frontale que Schneider a été dupé par David Koresh.
Négocier, c'est induire le changement chez l'autre, c'est-à-dire l'amener à volontairement modifier sa position, choisir d'arrêter la situation et de sortir.
Et malheureusement, si le temps devient une contrainte pour les négociateurs, ça va détruire l'essence même de cette technique.
And in WACO, time is running short. Drastic decisions are taken, which change the course of the negotiations.
I was in the chapel area. It was dark, and all of a sudden the building starts shaking, like an earthquake.
But it's not an earthquake. It's a US Army battle tank circling Mount Carmel.
WACO devient une zone de guerre. Et quand on voit les tanks, on se dit, qu'est-ce qu'ils font? Notre première réaction, c'est de dire, waouh, on en est là, quoi.
The FBI has been taking a tougher stance for several days. Hoping to get the Davidians out faster, they bring in a special terrorist unit. James McGee belongs to HRT, an elite rescue team that specializes in rapidly resolving hostage situations.
We're the final option. When something's gotten so bad, then there's no one else really to call.
Le HRT est plutôt sur une logique d'intervention et de rapport de force fort.
A tactical approach with a proven track record. In 1991, James and his team freed 9 people held hostage inside a prison in a matter of minutes. In their eyes, WACO is no exception.
From my perspective, and I think a lot of the other operators' perspective, was we could end this right now if we just took David Koresh out.
But the White House has ruled out the use of force. So FBI officials flex their muscles, exerting greater pressure on the cult. They bring in tanks and start cutting the compound's power supply. But it doesn't produce the hoped-for results.
Quand ils voient les membres du HRT qui commencent à se positionner, évidemment c'est un électrochoc pour David Koresh.
Your organization in this United States of America is a liar. You're saying peace with your mouth, but your words are words of a dragon.
The negotiators are in dismay. They weren't consulted beforehand. They have to rebuild trust all over again.
You tell us you're not going to come on the property, and then you do it the next day. Well, how is that going to cause any kind of harmony?
That is counterproductive. It's called the paradox of power. The harder you push, the more likely it is that you get resistance.
And this is exactly what happens. No one comes out of the compound for several days. To break the stalemate, negotiator Byron Sage comes up with a risky plan. He wants to meet David Koresh in person.
One thing I've always taught is that you never go face to face with an individual who has already demonstrated violence.
We were trying to be innovative and creative to get this resolved peacefully, and we worked very hard at doing that.
At 4:23 p.m., Monday, March 15th, 1993, a HRT squad walks Byron Sage up to the compound. This is the first time a negotiator has set foot at Mount Carmel. The air is thick with tension.
You could quite literally feel the crosshairs on you because their snipers were focused on us in case anything went wrong.
He is met by Steve Schneider and another cult member. David Koresh pulled out at the last minute. They start discussing the terms for a total surrender. David Koresh wants assurance his followers will be allowed to visit him in prison.
I said, Steve, I am in a position to tell you that I think we can accomplish every single point. He got all excited.
The conversation was very good. It was very positive. We were upbeat about it.
But the next morning, everything falls apart. David Koresh rejects the terms of the deal and forbids Steve Schneider to meet with the negotiators.
And it's difficult because you want to just jump on this guy, but you don't have the luxury of losing your temper.
Koresh was a very pragmatic person. He understood the reality that if he came out, he would probably get the death penalty or spend the rest of his life in jail.
WACO becomes a minefield for the negotiators, who have to tiptoe between an unstable cult leader with a 95-member flock and increasingly impatient FBI officials. How are things going to end? The siege has dragged on for nearly a month, The Mount Carmel standoff stirs strong feelings. There's an outcry of disapproval in Waco, with people questioning the FBI's tactics.
There were critics of the FBI in the news media. What's taking so long? How come this is costing $1 million a day? So there was a lot of those kinds of pressures.
The negotiators can't afford any more mishaps. They try a new strategy.
I coined the strategy trickle, flow, gush. We didn't expect to have a grand solution that would lead everyone out altogether, but we were hoping to slowly and steadily convince people to come out.
On utilise souvent une technique de négociation qui s'appelle la purge. C'est de saper les fondations du monde dans lequel ils peuvent vivre, simplement pour leur faire considérer une autre réalité.
We were trying to find that moment for each of those individuals that would make them reject Koresh.
The negotiators spent several hours talking on the phone with each cult member, with very promising results.
We had 7 adults out in one day, 7, which was a huge achievement. And when I reported this to the on-scene commander, he basically said, well, it's taking too long.
Then, what the negotiators hoped to avoid at all cost happens. FBI officials ramp up the pressure on the cult.
Things started to deteriorate.
To push them to surrender, they aimed giant loudspeakers at the cult's dormitory, blasting disturbing sounds and music all night long.
They set up the speaker systems with the loud noises, rabbits being slaughtered, Nancy Sinatra. These boots are made for walking, playing over and over again.
It was all done for sleep deprivation. It was all done to annoy us.
All these different types of tactics will exhaust you mentally to the point where you'll want to surrender.
That contradicts all FBI policy and experience and training. We have always said that is not good, it's counterproductive, it's in fact stupid.
On March 24th, 1993, things reach a breaking point. The FBI calls a press conference. The negotiators lay everything out very carefully.
We told the Davidians when the press conference was coming on, because we wanted them to hear us say publicly what we said to them over the phone.
But things get out of control, only making matters worse.
He does not care about those children, or he's using them as a shield, which is cowardly.
No, that's not the message that we wanted to send.
They would make some snide, sarcastic comments that reflected a disrespect for the Davidians that caused us problems.
For the head negotiator, this is the last straw.
It was frustrating for me to have to deal with someone who I don't think was making good decisions. As a negotiator, we don't put a deadline on ourselves. We say we have all the time in the world. I mean, what time limit do you put on a human life?
Gary Nussner is quickly brought to task. He's taken off the case.
I was viewed as someone that was an impediment to a more aggressive approach.
From now on, things will be handled differently. 85 people, including 20 children, are still holed up inside the compound. And the Davidians are taking an increasingly radical stance. The situation in Waco is at a stalemate. No one has come out of the compound for the past 13 days.
We did not quit in our efforts to try to facilitate getting every single soul out of there.
On ne considère jamais qu'on est dans l'impasse. Il y a toujours potentiellement une solution négociée qu'on va pouvoir apporter.
But the bond between the negotiators and the cult has been broken since Gary Nussner was pushed out.
They would take off the person that David and Steve liked and put on an atheist or someone who just didn't want to hear it. You just got to come out.
Le changement de négociateur à ce moment-là remet le compteur de confiance à zéro et il faut tout recommencer.
What do you think's going to happen in the next few days?
I don't care.
What do you believe is going to happen?
What? You guys are gonna kill us.
There is another reason for the stalemate. The Davidians are convinced that David Koresh's prophecy is coming true before their very eyes.
He said to me, Tibbs, what are you going to do 2 months from now when there's tanks running up and down the Double E Ranch Road? This was long before the raid. And I said, David, they're never going to bring tanks onto this property. I said, this is America. And 6 months later, I'm watching tanks running up and down the Double E Ranch Road.
That was just confirming David's prophecies. They were watching the agents of Satan.
We could see the guys in the tanks mooning the women, pulling their pants down, showing their butts, you know, giving them the finger and all of that stuff. That's offensive.
It was crazy. It's like they made his prophecies come true.
The situation pushes the cult leader over the edge. He no longer sees himself as a mere messenger of God. He tells the negotiators he is Jesus Christ.
David was 33 years of age. After the gun battle, he had been pierced in the side. He was being persecuted because of his beliefs. Well, who does that sound like? Jesus Christ.
C'est ce qu'on appelle de la dissociation. David Koresh se dissocie de la réalité, de la situation, il se positionne au-dessus des autres.
On sent vraiment qu'il bascule dans une phase de négociation de toute puissance.
A higher being who won't let anyone dictate to him and is willing to let the worst-case scenario unfold to restore his authority.
La dernière chose à faire face à ce type de profil, évidemment, c'est de le pousser, de vouloir écorcher son ego, parce que, en l'occurrence, si jamais il devait perdre le contrôle de la situation, on pourrait envisager le pire, comme un suicide collectif.
Wherever it may be. I'm going home. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I'm going home. Wherever home is, I'm going home.
When you say that you're going home, it concerns me when you tell me this that you've got something else in mind, maybe. As opposed to leading your flock out of there.
Not suicide.
He assured us that there wouldn't be any mass suicide. But still, we weren't absolutely convinced of that.
To prevent that from happening, the negotiators play their last card.
C'est ce qu'on appelle les TPI, Third Person Intermediary. On fait rentrer dans la négociation quelqu'un qui n'est pas négociateur, qui n'est même pas policier, en espérant qu'il va devenir un allié.
This is the man they choose. Dick DeGuerin, one of the top attorneys in Texas. He was contacted by David Koresh's mother.
It was a great challenge. I thought there was probably no one in the world that needed a lawyer worse than David Koresh did.
On April the 4th, 1993, he is granted permission to meet with his client inside the compound.
This is totally unprecedented. It's like letting the attorney go in and talk to the bank robber while the bank's still being robbed.
It's a last-ditch ploy. The negotiators have run out of ways to make David Koresh see reason. At 10:30 a.m., Dick DeGuerin enters the compound.
A lot of the people had Bibles with them and were reading Bibles. Several of the other people inside, the men, I did see with guns.
He walks up to David Koresh, the most wanted man in the United States. The cult leader seems fairly calm.
He was quiet. He'd never raised his voice with me. I didn't see any panic. I saw concern. And I went all through the building.
But is it just the calm before the storm? In the days to come, several signs point at a looming tragedy.
I saw a sign in the window, a painted sign with like magic markers, and it said, "Flames await."
David, after about 40-something days, said that God had told him the waiting time was over.
After 51 days, the WACO standoff draws to an end. And it's not the ending the negotiators hoped for.
Tout le monde a un peu perdu espoir. d'avoir une solution pacifique, on tourne en rond, les promesses qui sont faites ne sont pas tenues.
We're now almost a month with no one coming out.
On the night of April 18th, at the FBI's urging, the White House finally approves the use of heavy-handed methods.
On ne pourra plus revenir en arrière, parce qu'à partir du moment où on utilise la force, si vous voulez de nouveau négocier, c'est impossible, puisque la confiance est brisée.
The plan is to fire tear gas into the compound. Will it be enough to push the 85 people holed up inside to come out? April 19th, 1993, 5:58 a.m. Byron Sage addresses the Davidians for the very last time.
I said, the siege is over. You're under arrest. We're prepared to introduce tear gas. It's time to come out.
It's 6 a.m. and we're crossing the perimeter and heading up inside the various armored vehicles to begin the gas insertion.
TV crews from around the globe are outside, hoping to catch every little detail of the operation on film, despite the poor weather conditions.
Je me souviens des confrères de CNN qui étaient sur le toit du camion, la caméra était sur le toit du camion, dans ce vent-là qui faisait bouger l'optique d'ailleurs.
A few hours later, those gusty winds will have tragic consequences. At 6:03, the assault is launched. The tanks pull up to Mount Carmel. The compound fills up with tear gas. But instead of panicking, the cult sets into action. Some of the members fight back, firing at the HRT agents. Others take shelter in the basement, including most of the women and children.
Some of us had access to gas masks. We put them on.
From 6 to 10:30, I had hope. I had hoped they would see we're not coming out and they would pull back.
But that's not what happened.
I fired 93 CS gas grenades into the compound.
Et même un blindé va enfoncer un mur, qui va entraîner d'ailleurs un effondrement d'un certain nombre de pièces et d'escaliers qui s'avérera derrière désastreux.
At noon, 6 hours after the start of the operation, no one has come out yet. Suddenly, smoke starts pouring out of the window.
We're getting a kind of a white gray smoke.
The smoke is coming from a fire burning in a second-floor bedroom. More smoke can be seen at 2 other places in the compound. There can be no more doubt about the cult's intentions.
They're starting fires.
Et ces flammes vont embraser très très rapidement le compound. Ça va aller très vite.
Quand vous regardez quelque chose comme ça, d'abord vous êtes pétrifié. Et puis vous vous dites, quand même, ils vont sortir maintenant, quoi. Et ça sort pas.
The gusty winds turn the compound into a giant inferno. Byron Sage makes a last chance plea. He gets back on the microphone.
Now it was a request. Please, get out of that building while you still can. David, don't do this. You claim to be a Messiah. Lead those people out. Don't end it this way.
Ça peut fonctionner à partir du moment où vous gérez quelqu'un d'illuminé. L'illuminé, il n'est pas forcément méchant et puis il peut peut-être considérer une autre réalité que la sienne. Alors que le fanatique, lui, il est prêt à aller jusqu'au bout.
And this fanatic takes his flock right down with him. Inside, the Davidians face a terrible choice. Surrender to their leader's deadly prophecy or come out.
If God says this is going to happen and it's happening, how do you walk away from that? Even at the risk of my own life, if I die, I die. I've died for something I believed in.
And I'm praying, God, if you're going to do a miracle, you better do it quick because it's getting hot, you know.
And I didn't want to burn to death. My last thought coming out of that building is, okay, they're going to shoot me, but I'd rather be shot than to burn to death.
David Thibodeau comes out of the burning building along with Clive Doyle and 6 other men. No one shoots at them. James McGee is at their side when he sees a woman jump from the 2nd floor.
And then she turned and walked back into the compound on the bottom floor. And I was like, She's obviously gone back in to commit suicide. I asked the guy driving the Bradley, I said, pull down there, I'm gonna go in and get her. I found her inside the compound, laying on the floor. She was non-compliant, so I basically had to pick her up and carry her out.
A few seconds after the rescue, the building collapses.
It's unbelievable. I hope something like that never happens again.
Soon after, gunshots ring out inside the compound. The Davidians are putting an end to their suffering. David Koresh will be found with a bullet in his head.
It was clearly a disaster of monumental proportions.
I don't think I've ever been more angry in my life. I was mad at David Koresh for having selfishly resisted every opportunity given to him to lead everybody out alive, which he could have done every day.
It was his last fuck you to society, you know. He was not going to give us the satisfaction of him spending the rest of his life in prison. That's the only thing he had control of at that time, and he took it.
In just 18 minutes, the entire compound is gone. 76 people are killed, including 20 children. A tragic ending to an extraordinary standoff.
I made the decision to end negotiations. I'll never forget it because flipping that switch on the PA system, in my mind, was an admission of failure. We had not been able to get all of them out to safety. Those final moments just echo in my mind.
During the ensuing investigation, illegal weapons are found in the compound ruins, confirming the ATF. As for the FBI, it learns a hard lesson from the failed negotiations and changes its crisis resolution tactics. But that won't end the controversy over one of the longest armed standoffs in the US history.
WACO a été l'exemple qu'un groupe fanatisé, très organisé, avec un gourou très charismatique et très présent, eh bien, peut aller jusqu'au bout, même si toutes les tentatives ont été faites pour obtenir une solution pacifique.